First fight up in the women's bantamweight division, we got Melissa Mullins going up against Luana Carolina. Mullins is coming off of a loss to Daria Zelezniakova, a fighter she's already defeated. So recent, you can still see it in her last 5 here, as when she first defeated her, it was under the Aries FC banner where she got her to the ground almost immediately and was able to pummel her to a TKO with 1 second left on the clock in round 1. That eventually earned her shot in the UFC, as we saw her pick up that win over Arina Alexieva. Then she struggled against Nora Kernol in a fight where she missed weight very badly, and then obviously her takedowns didn't work out that well for her. She got gassed out and then knocked out in the second round of that fight. Luckily, she was able to get back on track against Claudia Shigula, and then against Daria Zelezniakova. Again, very weird approach from her. She went 3 of 6 on takedowns, but she did not go for the takedowns and grappling approach as often as people expected her to, especially considering the type of advantage she held in that fight. You know, that was a fight where she was a chalky favorite, and one that felt like if she just replicated what she did in the first fight, she would have gotten that win pretty easily. Of course, we have to give some credit to Zelezniakova to make Mullins work for those takedowns, but you still felt like Mullins left enough on the table that she could have been shooting a little bit more and still had more success. But she decided to strike with Zelezniakova, which is where she obviously had a disadvantage, and we saw her get touched up for her trouble and lose that fight on the scorecards. Now, I'm not willing to completely write her off, right? She's 34 years old. She's definitely up there in age. But if she really gets to her grappling game, she can be one of the better fighters in the women's bantamweight division. But can you trust her after a performance like that? That's where things really start to get shaky, and that's where I question whether she actually deserves to get the job, to be a favorite in fights. In this one particularly, she finds herself at a pick 'em price, but more so, can we trust her to go out there and actually wrestle, considering she didn't do so last time? Now, she's going up against Luana Carolina, who fumbled a bag as, she was an underdog, but she was coming up to 135 pounds in September when she went up against Michelle Montague. That was on the back end of having a fight canceled because she had weight cutting issues getting down to 125 pounds. That's not the first time. It's been several occasions where Carolina has struggled on the scales, causing fights to get canceled or pulling out, or even just missing out flat and just going on with the fight at a catch weight. But now the UFC is like, hey, let's cut this out. Let's just go to 135 pounds and see if you can have any success there. She's normally a Muay Thai fighter, so she's often fighting opponents that are looking to take her to the ground. And at 125 pounds, she did a decent enough job in terms of stopping takedowns and forcing opponents to strike with her. But at 135 pounds, it might be a little bit harder for her because she's still building into that frame. She is long and lanky for the division, or at least for 125 pounds, so she fits right in at 135 as just a regular-sized bantamweight. But we saw the strength and size of Michelle Montague, a former 145er before coming to the UFC, really wear on Carolina, leading to Montague landing 5 of 7 takedown attempts and nearly accruing 11 minutes of control time. Carolina really struggled in that fight. She's clearly working on her wrestling, though, as you can see from some of her Instagram posts. She also earned her BJJ brown belt back in December, so she's clearly working on shoring up that side of her game, because if she can keep fights in the striking game, that's where she often finds success against her opponents with her output volume and just stinging strikes and combinations that she lands. Now, here against Melissa Mullins, pure striker versus grappler battle, right? That's why the line is roughly around a pick 'em. Minus 115 for Carolina, minus 105 for Mullins. It's really what you like. Do you trust Mullins enough to go out there and grapple more than she did in her last fight? And even if she does, can she hold Carolina down and have as much dominance as we've seen her on her rise to the UFC? And then on the flip side for Carolina, do we trust in her defensive grappling improvements enough that she can go out there and outstrike Mullins and win this fight by pretty much just out-damaging Mullins? I hate swinging so far on a pendulum against a fighter that I was so confident in with Mullins, but Carolina is a fighter that I've often underrated throughout her career. So I feel like this might be one of those spots where she could have a breakout performance where she stops the takedowns of Mullins, or at least quickly works back to her feet. And then from there, I expect Carolina to apply her striking edge, and that should lead to her outstriking Mullins and winning this fight on the scorecards. Considering how close the odds here, I don't want a shot on Carolina either, considering how I expect this fight to play out.